Hey everybody, this is Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the one-hand mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. This is a Craftsman LT1000 with a 42-inch deck. This is an older version of a tractor, and I want to show you how I remove the mower deck and also reinstall it. So the first thing we want to do is just want to show you two tools I'm going to need today. Pair of pliers, needle nose pliers, and I'm going to use a long pry bar to help lift up the mower deck. This mower deck does not have anti-scout wheels. It's not as easy to get off as far as the newer style machines are. Hopefully you guys can do this on asphalt or concrete. That would be a big plus. We're going to go ahead and push the emergency brake down. Make sure the machine does not go. If you have to, you can put it in gear if it's a gear-driven one, or just put the emergency brake on if it is a hydrostatic transmission. I'm going to go ahead and put the mower deck all the way down as far as it'll go. And on this side, we're on the right side of the machine. Just going to go ahead and take off the mower deck belt first, which is right here. And this has a old style guide right here. A lot of these guides actually break. So if you have a piece sticking off of this thing and you're wondering, well, where's my real long part of it? That's very important to have. It's the only thing that keeps this belt from falling off. So if you have an old style like this, just make sure that it's all intact. And I'm just going to go ahead and go right behind the guide right there, drop it off the front of the pulley, and it just drops right down. Now, since we're up here, we have two front arms that we have to take off right here. So we're going to go ahead and take off. This right here is actually an old school pin, and these worked great back in the day. They actually stopped. I don't know if you can still get them. You might be able to still get them, but these are good and a little more heavy duty than the ones I've actually seen, the newer ones. Then they have the new style, which is up here. This is what they're going to, but both work. Now, I'm not going to take off this arm all the way. If you want to, if you're going to have the mower deck off for a while, take this whole arm off, and I'm just going to slide it out of its hole right now. Just leave it down on the ground, because all we're doing is removing this and installing it. We're going to come to the back hanger here, which is right here, and this pin here is facing rearward, which is good. We're going to go ahead and take this out. Pair of pliers, and I'm just going to push it out like that. Just a little thing about these pins. If you have them facing rearward, they will actually, if they get hit, because we do 90% of our driving in forward, if it get hit, it'll push itself in and it'll lock itself in. If you have it like this, and a lot of people put them in backwards like that, well, I call it backwards. There's real no wrong or right, but if you have it this way and you hit something, this can pop out, which in turn will drop this arm and your deck will be running on the ground. So try to make sure you put them in from forward to rearward, and they tend to stay in better. Now we're at the arm here. This is where the mower deck is actually hanging on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my pry bar underneath, and I have had comments where a piece of wood it will work just fine, but my pry bar is what I use. I'm going to take this out, put it on top like so. Now we're going to go around to the other side. Go ahead and get our front pin out here. Like that. Now this is hanging, the deck is hanging on it, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and lift up on the mower deck a little bit with my pry bar, and then that'll pop right down like that. Come back to the center arm back here, and it is facing forward to rearward, which is good. Go ahead and pull that out. Again, I'm going to go ahead and lift up my mower deck with my pry bar, which will release the tension on that. I'm going to put that above this little nubby right there, and then slide my pry bar out. This does have a anti-sway bar, which is really nice to have. So you make sure you take the pin out of the sway bar. That should just drop down like so. Now we have to go over to the other side and disconnect the cable. And before I disconnect the cable, since these arms are just sitting down, I'm going to go ahead and pick up on the mower deck height adjustment lever and just lift them up out of the way. So now we can see the spring and the cable that is attached. So we're going to go ahead and pull the pin from the cable, and now also there is there's a washer. A lot of these just have one washer, but this one had two for some reason, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and take the spring off like that. Now, back here where the cable runs, I'm going to pull this mower deck out a little bit. Just to get a little, you got to be careful you don't pull the cable too tight. So now you can see it. I'm going to pull the pin out of it right here. And then there is a little plastic washer on this. Some had them, some didn't. That goes on before the pin. And then you pull the cable out, and there's a slot right here that the cable will actually slide through and then out. And then your spring is already off right here. Just if you're gonna have the mower deck off all the time, if you're gonna have the mower deck off for a while, just hang this up somewhere with a zip tie possibly, or just get it out of the way, but you don't want to run it over with your tire, so be careful. Now, we're just gonna remove the mower deck by sliding it out. And there you go. As far as reinstalling the mower deck, I do want to show you one thing on these old mower decks. I have a video that is about this bracket here. This bracket tends to get divots right here from the rollers on the blade brakes. And what will happen is when you engage the mower deck, it'll actually stick on. And this should just come off like that. There's two reasons there's two things you should check out. You should make sure that this doesn't have a divot here. And if it does, I have a video, which I will put in the link in the description below, as far as how to take this off and put a new one on. And then also, there is a spring that is very helpful. It's a helper spring that actually helps this come back. And I know a lot of you guys have your own fixes for this, but I am a shop and I want to do it correctly. So what I do is I put a new one in. Yes, you can probably sand down these little divots, and some people with welders out there, you can put a little weld in there. And I'm actually going to use I'm going to actually start welding up the old brackets and putting new brackets on. All right, so that's enough of that. So as far as reinstalling the mower deck, we're just going to go ahead and slide it back in. Now, since we're on this side, I'm going to go ahead and put the cable in reverse order. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put the spring on the stud up there, and I'm actually going to put the washer and put the pin in first. Okay, and try to have the pin going the same direction, facing forward to rearward. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull the cable. You have to pull the cable out a little bit, and then it's like a little puzzle how that fits in there. And then the washer goes on like this. And I'm going to just hold the back, pushing it in a little bit, put the washer right here. And the big pin, clevis pin that we have here, we're going to put like so, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and push in the mower deck all the way. And you kind of have to reposition the mower deck how it was the best you can. And then I'm going to start with the forwardmost hanger. And I'm going to move the mower or the deck, move the tractor or the mower deck forward and backward until I find a hole. Get lined up. And go ahead and put the pin in. And these pins are a little bit hard to just push in with your fingers, so I use a pair of pliers and I kind of push down on them like that. Just make sure it's in. I'm going to go ahead and put the mower deck belt on while I'm here. Just like so. And when we're done, we're going to engage the mower deck just to make sure that we have everything lined up. Now I'm going to go ahead and lower the handle to your mower deck height adjuster. So the arms come down, and as you can see, we're pretty far away from that stud, so I'm going to have to put my pry bar underneath the mower deck, lift up, and then kind of have to manipulate the mower deck to where it's in perfect line-up mode here. Push it on. I'm going to go ahead and put our pin in from forward to rearward. And these are a little tricky, so sometimes I'll get my pry bar in here and I'll actually just push them in like so. Making sure our belt's on our pulley here. We're going to go around to the other side. We're going to go ahead and start up front at the hanger here. And as you can see, I'm not lined up, so I'm just going to move the mower deck forward a little bit until that lines up. I'm going to put this down in here, see if I can push it in. These are, there it is, they're a little hard. Okay, we're just going to come back here to this hanger. It's on the other side. I'm going to push the mower deck over, and I also have to lift up the back of the mower deck. And go ahead and lift up on the mower deck with your pry bar. Push it in. Push pin in. Come back to your sway bar. Put your sway bar in. Lock it in. And at this point, what you want to do is engage your mower deck. And then check to make sure everything is lined up correctly underneath. Make sure you're on your pulleys. Make sure your belt goes around all the way. and disengage your mower deck engagement lever before you start the tractor or it will not run. So that's pretty much it for how to remove and install a mower deck, 42-inch mower deck on an LT1000. I would suggest definitely taking it out for a test drive, adjusting your tire pressure and leveling the mower deck. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please subscribe, tell your friends about my channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.